Okay, so I'm here today at the Swedish Academy for Advanced Clinical Dentistry with a dear friend of mine, Sascha Hein, a true master dental technician. There's many things to be said about your great career so far, but I would like to get back to where it all started. And I know that you're a person from many different continents, and I suppose this has sort of shaped you as a person and as a dental technician. So could you paint the picture a little bit about how you ended up in this field?
Yeah, I mean, so it basically happened that my father is a civil engineer who used to work for a lot of German construction companies, and so he worked in the Middle East for a long time. So I happened to have been born in Saudi Arabia because my dad was working there at the time. So and I would have been maybe 10 or 11 years old when I went to Germany. So I was a little bit older at the time. And then I lived in Africa for 2 years when I was a teenager. Again, Dad had worked there, and so I'd always had this thing about going abroad, I guess. And so when I finished my high school training, year 12 in Germany, I was too lazy to go to uni, quite frankly. So one of my neighbors, whom we've known for a long time, had a dental lab in Germany, and so they were looking for an apprentice, and that's just basically how I got into dental technology. Was by pure coincidence and chance. And then I followed my path, and after my time in the army, I worked in a couple of countries in Europe, and then I moved on to Japan and did some specialized training in dental ceramics under Masahiro Kuwata, who's one of the pioneers of dental ceramics. One of the earliest references you can find in the dental literature about dental ceramics is Kuwata from the 70s and sometimes even earlier than that. And then I lived and worked in the Emirates in Dubai for 2 or 3 years, and met my first wife there, who's Australian, and so I ended up in Perth, Western Australia, where I lived for 12 years. And now, since 3 years, I'm back in Germany, in the southwest of Germany now. And I live in Freiburg again, which is also the town where I did master school.
Yeah. So, I mean, knowing you as a person, you reckon that you have an enormous amount of energy and a lot of passion for what you do. And you said it's been a sort of an interesting journey. So, I mean, what's really behind this passion? Because you said it's an accident that you more or less ended up in dental technology.
It is.
But still,
is.
you have enormous passion for what you do.
Curiosity. It's as simple as that. It's just curiosity. If I'm curious about something, I have an interest in something, I really pursue that just because I'm very interested in it. And when you start doing that, inevitably one thing leads to another. And so I've always chased my passion and my interest in wanting to understand things better, and that's really the only motivation, the only drive, and everything else that you have to do to get there, that's just what you have to do to get there. That's it.
Yeah. Does it also translates to teaching other people? Because you're a great teacher as well. I mean, that's
Yeah. So that was another coincidental thing. So at some point, people have approached me about 10 years ago and asked me whether I would be interested in lecturing.
Yeah.
And I had absolutely no experience with that at all. And the first presentation that I ever did, and that was my first appearance on stage ever, right? First time ever, was I think it would have been in 2008 or 2009 at an oral design symposium at New York University College in front of 600 people, in front of some of the best dental technicians in the world, so no pressure.
A tough first gig.
It was a tough first gig. It was the first time I was ever on stage, so I'm very grateful to the Oral Design Foundation and Willi Geller. I'm also a member of the Oral Design Group, and they really were the first people who gave me a chance, and they put me on stage. And without their support, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, for sure.
Okay, so it will help along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. But another thing that we've been talking about, and that's sort of a signal for you, I think, is that you have an idea that we need to put a more scientific approach.
Yes.
To dental technology.
Correctly, yeah.
Into your field, instead of having what we normally have, a lot of opinions.
Yes,
to be honest, expert opinions.
Expert opinion, yeah.
And you have been really at the forefront of this because you've published and you've, as you say, when you pursue something with an interest and curiosity, you really have passion for it. So,
yeah.
I mean, why do you think it's so important?
Well, okay, so later on when I continued in my journey, so at some point I was like a classic dental technician, so very empirically thinking and very much influenced by expert opinion and experience and subjective impressions and things like that. And then as I continued on my journey, I got involved with the bioemulation group, and so that there was more science behind it and stuff. So I discovered interest in science and in scientific approach. And so fundamentally, the reason why I think that dental technicians should become more scientific in their daily work is just because with science you can produce a lot more predictability than you can do with a subjective approach. That's just my opinion. So I think if we adopt a scientific approach as dental technicians, we could gain a lot more predictability and also a lot more understanding and consequently a lot more awareness as well.
Yeah. And of course, doing research, as we're talking about, I mean, that translates to, as I know, a lot of reading.
Yes.
A lot of books, a lot of articles.
Yes.
And, if you were to pick maybe an article or a book that really made a big impact of you, which one would you choose?
All right. So as far as books are concerned, I think the two most influential books that sort of immediately come to mind is Metal Ceramics by Makoto Yamamoto, and that is very important to me because it combined two things. It combined great aesthetics, which is important for dental technicians because there was amazing clinical cases in that book, but it's also very scientific. And so there was no unanswered questions. It was one of the most profound pieces of literature in dental technology and in prosthodontics probably as well. Okay, so Metal Ceramics is certainly one of those books. It's out of print, unfortunately, now. And another one is an earlier one, which impressed me tremendously, and it still does today. It's actually the Science and Art of Dental Ceramics, the Volume 1 by John McLean, which is, I think, from the late 60s, 1968, something like that. And it's a classic. It's really a classic. And I find it very surprising still when you look around the lecturing circuit today, and when you look at a couple of publications that come out today, how much of that knowledge really has its origin in that book. Yeah. And it's just been recycled and recycled and recycled. Valid, and still valid, exactly. It's still valid. So that's as far as books are concerned. And as far as scientific research papers are concerned, one of the most influential papers that I can think of really that still keeps on inspiring me today, and I still discover new things every time I read it, is a rather obscure paper that most people don't know. It was published in 1995, I think, in the Journal of Dental Research by Kobs and Ten Bosch. I don't know the exact title. It's something about tooth reflectance and color and things like that. Okay, it's got a bit of an obscure title, but it's a very profound paper that sums up a lot of the optical properties that we find in natural dental hard tissues, and it's really one of those papers. It's an older style of research, in a way that it has a lot of stuff in it. I think today you would split this up in 4 papers, right? And then put it in 1 paper, right? And it's just really amazing. I read this today and I discover something new every time. And I had the great luck and the great honor to have been mentored by Professor Ten Bosch. He's now retired. He used to be at the University of Groningen. He's a physicist. He's one of my mentors, and had the great luck and honor to meet him in person not so long ago, actually last year when I was in Holland. And that's just very, very exhilarating and empowering. I still think that's one of the best papers. Yeah.
So with the mentoring and of course the journey you had, and of course, as you mentioned, you had your own laboratory.
Yes.
And doing a lot of research, of course, you found out that there is a lot of issues with the things we're doing with teeth and patients every day.
Yeah.
And that sort of led you to inventing sort of the Elaborate and the eLAB. Can you explain a little bit more, the problems that were sort of what we're facing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I used to have my own dental laboratory in Perth, Western Australia, for 7 years, and I did a lot of work for prosthodontists, specialist dentist prosthodontists, and so naturally with that comes a lot of difficult work, obviously, implant work and difficult implant cases, but also a lot of single central cases, and they were usually referred away from general practitioners.
I know the feeling.
Exactly. So any general practitioner with a bit of work and life experience will know that there's a good chance you're going to lose money with a case like that. So you refer them on to a prosthodontist and make it someone else's problem, and then I ended up with them fundamentally. When you have 2 or 3 of these single centrals every week, this is really frustrating. And the thing that frustrated me the most was the lack of consistency in the results and the inability to predict the outcome. Yeah. And even repeating restorations multiple times did not necessarily result in any more predictability or better results in that matter. So I guess I used to do for a long time what a lot of people do. You only really document the 2 or 3 cases every year that are really good, and you just don't talk about the rest.
No.
The gray zone. So that was just a really, really intriguing problem, and I set out firstly together with my friends and mentors, Panagiotis Bartzos and Javier Tapiam from Madrid, general practitioners, partners, non-orthodontist. And so together we sort of set out on this journey of firstly just trying to understand, why this is happening,
Yeah.
and then we were thinking about, is there anything constructive, anything new that we can do to change that?
Yeah. So the concept of eLAB, if you were to explain a little bit more in, let's say, in detail, what it really is.
Yeah. Traditionally we've been using stock shade guides for taking shades. I mean, that's the way that we all were taught, and that's what we do every day. So we grab a shade guide, and we pull out a shade tab that is usually the least worst out of all of them. Okay,
Yeah.
and you're trying to relate them to the teeth and everything, and then you write down the code on the lab slip, and that's kind of how we do it. And so we all know, where this leads and how accurate this really is, and it's not very accurate. But that's just what we've been doing for the last 30, 40 years. And then towards the late 90s, they came up with new shade guides with more choices and options, and then instrumental-based shade evaluation was introduced in the form of spectrometers and colorimeters, which didn't really make that much difference in clinical reality.
No.
They made a performance in universities. So nowadays, I think the only people that really use these devices are dental researchers, but they're not really used that often
No.
in a dental practice.
No.
So that was frustrating, didn't really provide any answers. So what we intended to do was elaborate, and it tied in with having a very, very strong interest and a deep running interest in dental photography, and also in light of new advancements and developments that came across in the last 6-7 years in that field. We set out to come up with a new protocol which combined polarized dental photography, with a standardization protocol to measure tooth colors without the use of a shade guide and without the use of the Vita classical system, and instead adopting a different system from science, which is called the eLAB system, and using these 3 color coordinates, which describe the luminosity, the red, and the amount of yellow that we find in a tooth color, to use these numeric values to communicate tooth colors objectively, even over the distance. So there's no real need to see the patient in person for me as a technician. If I have that one image with a gray reference card, then I can read all the information that I need from this image using the eLAB system, and then formulating a specific shade recipe for that patient, rather than working with stock colors that don't correlate too much. That's the basic idea behind the eLAB protocol. That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah. So a high degree of predictability without the feeling of just lucky. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
So eliminating the guesswork, eliminating the frustration that is a consequence of that. I think we've all been at these situations many times where you've got these really difficult single central cases, and you end up making 5 of those, and in the end you have nothing. You have 5 restorations, and none of them really matches, and by that time everyone's really upset.
Yeah.
I mean, the dentist is upset, the patient is upset, you're upset as well. Everyone's lost money, and the patient's lost time and everything. So that is an issue. It is an issue. And when you talk to a lot of practitioners and prosthodontists and also dental technicians, the occurrence that you have mechanical failure of a restoration and the financial loss that this might inflict is significantly smaller than the money that you lose and the time that you lose as a consequence of aesthetic complications, mostly color.
Yeah, and it's the fact that we don't really want to talk about it.
We don't want to talk about it, exactly. We don't want to talk about it, and there's a lot of subjective protocols out there. Okay, from doing elaborate layering techniques, and everyone's got a different take on how they take the shade, and doing bespoke try-ins, or having the patient in the laboratory for a whole day while you make one restoration and things like that. So we just wanted to find out if there was a better way to do that.
Yeah.
And to be more objective about getting to the point of having consistent color matching to a high degree of accuracy with the minimum effort required to do that, and most importantly, having more predictability for everyone involved, the clinician as well as the dentist.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, of course, in the beginning, I imagine that it's a little bit controversial.
Yes.
And it can be quite hard to realize that the things that we've been doing is not maybe the proper way.
Yes.
I mean, you've been all around the world now with this concept,
Yes.
and people have really embraced it.
Yes.
And it's becoming, a lot of success for you. What's next?
Okay, so we to develop the eLAB system and to actually make it work was a process that took about 3 years of research. It was 3 years of research to get to the point that it would actually work, that you were able to synchronize different cameras from different manufacturers and to be able to do digital try-ins with a high degree of accuracy. That took 3 years. But then we started teaching the eLAB protocol in January 2016. We've created a community using social medias, because that's today the easiest way to communicate with people.
Very powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we have a group on Facebook which is called the official eLAB group, which now has over 2,000 members, and a lot of enthusiasts, and over 200 people have done the course now, and they're really getting into it and doing eLAB. And so since we started doing that since last year, we have been working consistently on making eLAB easier.
Yeah.
Making it easier, okay? And that's actually, it seems harder than making it work in the first place. That was compared to that, it was actually quite simple, but trying to make it easier is the big thing that we're working on. So in that quest, working on designing an app at the moment where you could key in the target values and it will give you a recipe, okay, a mixing recipe. And for that, we have developed a portioning device.
Yeah.
To replicate the color that you're looking for, because the purpose of the eLAB protocol is to replace stock shade guides. So you just you want to make a custom dentin for that. That's one big thing that I'm working on, and the other one, for sure, is to make eLAB a protocol that can be used with a smartphone, because smartphone photography is becoming a reality. People are using this more and more. And from a technological point of view, there's no reason why it should be combined with.
And it will reach more doctors, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. So whatever makes it easier and gives us more, reliability and predictability with shade-sensitive restorations is a necessity.
So in the end, more or less means that you have a perfect recipe, and you can follow most of it. Take a little bit of this and that, and you will have predictability.
Yeah. So as a dental technician, what we need is one picture from the dental surgery. At the moment, it is required to do this with a digital single lens camera, so with a DSLR camera. But in the near future, we want to be able to do this with a smartphone as well. We're in the research stage where this is already working. We have to tweak it a little bit to make it widely available and things like that. And the eLAB protocol has a lot of features that you can use in any case. So even if you're not entirely ready to jump onto the entire workflow, there's little bits and pieces of the eLAB protocol that you can always use, and you can slowly get into the subject matter, and you slowly begin to understand what
you
the problems
apply it to different sort of.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if you want to stick with shade guides, at least to begin with, you can always do the digital try-in, and you're always capable of checking the accuracy of the outcome before you actually send it to the surgery. So that's a powerful tool that you can do. And understanding the eLAB system, you can always analyze and understand differences, and then think about what you can do to improve that.
Yeah.
Using analytical thinking rather than subjectiveness and guesswork and expert opinion and things like that.
So if we were to look into the future, where would you think we will be in 5 years from now?
Dentistry is a conservative field. So we're not going to practice dentistry on Mars or the Moon or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be a significantly different landscape in 5 years' time. I really think that. Digital capabilities will improve and increase in market share, I guess. And even right now with digital technologies, you see that there's a lot of trends coming and going as well. So you kind of notice that. We've just been on IDS, you and I.
Yeah.
And so I'd say one of the big topics on this IDS was 3D printing. One of the big topics on the IDS before that, I think, was facial scanners.
Yeah.
Okay. That's also subject to fashion, I guess. But as far as color science and things like that are concerned, I'm hoping that in 5 years' time we'll have a much larger community of eLAB users, dentists as well as technicians.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that for the most part, the reason for this will be that we've managed to make it a lot easier and hence more widely available.
Yeah. Now, later this year, we will host a course in December together at the Swedish Academy for Advanced Clinical Dentistry. And why should you attend, and what could participants expect?
So it's exactly what we just talked about. Yeah. So if you are an enthusiast dentist or an enthusiast dental technician, you just are very enthusiastic about your work, and you just want to get it right, and you want to avoid these complications that we have all had in the past about, you know,
Yeah.
color matching these difficult anterior cases. And also, you know, if you want to be able to collaborate with dentists and technicians over large geographic distances, you know, then the eLAB protocol, you know, might be interesting for you. And also, you know, for sure, you know, for the dental technicians, it provides a very valuable tool to really expand your horizon.
Yeah.
And to think out of the box and just look at an old subject matter with completely new eyes. And so if you want to solve the problem of, you know, consistent shade matching, if you're struggling with that, and I know a lot of people are because I used to be one of them, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to produce more consistent shade matches without having to do costly redos and stuff. And also to be able to collaborate more closely with your client, even when they're not in your neighborhood, then, you know, the eLAB protocol is a truly interesting option, also for dentists. If you want to learn how to improve the communication with your dental lab, because you will benefit from that too.
Yeah. And the course is going to be broken up, as you said. It's going to be doctors and also, of course, dental technicians. So
correct.
The
So
team approach.
Yeah. So on the first day, we learn about the scientific fundamentals of the eLAB protocol. So clinicians also get an idea of, you know, what is involved and what's behind it, basically, what the academic foundations are of that. And then we practice the bit about the what we call the team photography, where the clinicians learn how to take the photo, because that's what they have to do. They have to take that one photo and then transfer the information to the dental lab, and then together they will practice the digital workflow so that everybody understands, you know, why they have to do things the way they have to do them and what is involved in order to obtain the ideal information.
Yeah.
And then on day 2 and 3, I believe we'll have a live patient case.
Yeah.
Where you know, you have already selected the case ahead of time, and you have provided me with the information I need, the images that I need, and then on day 2 and day 3 we will make the restoration together with the team of the dental technicians, and on the last day we'll see it in vivo.
Yeah. Sounds great.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sascha.
Thanks very much, Marcus. Pleasure.
And I'm looking forward to December, of course, and we hope to see you here, of course, at our center. Thank you so much.
Thank you.